Is Pakistan trying to take advantage of the situation in Bangladesh? Is there an ISI angle to the violence in the neighboring country? Well, former ambassador of India to Bangladesh, 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗱𝗏 Shringla, has expressed concerns over the ongoing violent protests in neighboring Bangladesh. The former ambassador said there are possibility of radical elements, Pakistan's ISI and other interests inimical to Bangladesh being involved in the protests, and the 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗹 government has to conduct their investigation into the matter. Shringla said there are reports of other elements coming into the picture with radical elements such as the Chhatra Shibir, which is part of the 𝗕𝗵𝗴𝗵𝗵. He added the opposition BNP that has been involved in the protests and demonstrations has added a political dimension. He added there could be other elements that are inimical to Bangladesh's interests, such as the ISI being involved. He also said there are reports and the Bangladesh government has to conduct its own investigation to find out.
We are seeing reports of other elements coming into the picture. There are radical elements such as the Chhatra Shibir, which is part of the 𝗕𝗵𝗴𝗵𝗵. There is the opposition BNP that has been involved in the protests and demonstrations, which has added a political dimension to this. There could be other elements that are inimical to Bangladesh's interests, like the ISI being involved. I mean, there are reports of that. I mean, that whether that's correct or not, the government has to, Bangladesh government has to conduct its own investigation to find out. But people are trying to take advantage of the situation and essentially, using the troubled situation, to fish in troubled water, so to speak.
Meanwhile, according to 𝗕𝗵𝗱 chị𝘁-𝗵𝗱, a foreign affairs expert, the Bangladesh protests are also being joined by radicalists, the extreme left and China-backed groups, apart from the students, which is a worrying trend. Speaking to ANI, chị𝘁-𝗵𝗱 said that the radicalists, extreme left and China-backed groups are taking advantage of the situation in Bangladesh. He said that whenever there is such an attack, the Indian diaspora becomes a victim of hate crimes in Bangladesh. chị𝘁-𝗵𝗱 said that India cannot meddle with the internal affairs of Bangladesh, but it can take steps to ensure the safety of Indians in Bangladesh.
The protests in Bangladesh are not only about the students and their issues regarding the quota. Yes, that is the legitimate protest. But what is happening in Bangladesh is that other elements, the radical left, the Islamic extremists, are also joining into these protests, as well as China-backed groups are also participating or promoting these protests. The reason being, one big reason, Bangladesh has been run more or less like a dictatorship by 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗱𝗏, and she has been in power for the last 15 years almost, right? The last elections which happened in January were boycotted by the opposition. So in a way, in a general sense, the democratic participation has not been there, like a safety valve. Okay, now this safety valve is bursting. And at the same time, the radical, the extremists and the China-backed groups are taking advantage of this situation. The first thing we have to make sure is that our borders are sealed and cannot be penetrated. But once again, when such disturbances are happening inside Bangladesh in the country, right, some people may want to flee. Okay, that is one. So there'll be pressure on our borders. Secondly, China could try and promote that even more. It is in China's interest that more people are pushed towards India. Some get into India, and then in India, of course, there is anger at illegal people coming into the country. So that increases our differences with Bangladesh. It creates problems in our relations with Bangladesh. So for China, it is better that as unstable as Bangladesh can be made right now, it is better for it for two reasons. One, 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗱 has not been very cooperative with the Chinese. Okay, and for the Chinese, it does not matter. 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗱 is doing them a good job. The opposition which is there is much more closer to China and Pakistan.
Meanwhile, the violent clashes between student protesters and police in Bangladesh have led to the deaths of at least 105 people, various media reports said. The 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 government has imposed a fresh nationwide curfew late last night with shoot-at-sight orders and deployment of military forces to maintain law and order. The fresh curfew in Bangladesh was announced by 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗴𝗵𝗱, the General Secretary of the ruling Awami League Party, who said it was being done to help the civil administration keep order. Along with the curfew, internet has also been banned in the country and all public and private universities have been indefinitely shut. It is pertinent to mention that Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 on Wednesday appealed for peace and calm in the violence-rattled nation. In a televised address to the nation, Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 further assured justice for those killed during the protest. Let's listen in.
আমি দ্ব্যর্থহীনভাবে ঘোষণা করছি, যারা হত্যাকাণ্ড, লুটপাট ও সন্ত্রাসী কর্মকাণ্ড চালিয়েছে, এরা যেই হোক না কেন, তারা যেন উপযুক্ত শাস্তি পায় সে ব্যবস্থা নেওয়া হবে। আমি আরও ঘোষণা করছি, হত্যাকাণ্ড সহ যে সকল অনভিপ্রেত ঘটনা ঘটেছে, সুষ্ঠু ও ন্যায় বিচারের সাথে সে সকল বিষয় বিচার বিভাগীয় তদন্ত করা হবে।
Well, it may be mentioned here that Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃's peace appeal has failed to make any impact on the ongoing turmoil in the country. On Friday, police and security officials clashed once again as security forces fired bullets and lobbed tear gas on protesters in Dhaka. Demonstrators stormed a jail in the central district of Narsingdi yesterday, freeing hundreds of inmates before setting the facility on fire. As per reports, officials have estimated the number of escaped inmates to be in the hundreds. Websites of several Bangladesh newspapers faced trouble and were also inactive on social media. News television channels and the state broadcaster BTV went off the air as well. The official websites of the Central Bank, the Prime Minister's office and the police also appeared to have been hacked by a group branding itself the Resistance, according to Reuters. Bangladesh Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 has cancelled plans to leave the country on Sunday for diplomatic visits to Spain and Brazil, her press secretary told AFB. Notably, the present crisis poses the toughest political challenge for 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 as students are demanding reforms to the government's existing quota policy on jobs. Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 has invited the students for talks to find a solution to the issue peacefully. However, given the existing situation, it is not clear whether the students will accept the government's offer. The protesters have called Prime Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗃 a dictator and have demanded a public apology from her as well. Protesters also demand justice for those killed during the protests. We have reactions from Minister of State 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗱𝗏. Let's listen in.
देखिए, बड़ा चिंताजनक विषय है। छात्रों की हमेशा जो बातें हैं, जो प्रॉब्लम्स हो, वो सुननी चाहिए और मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि बांग्लादेश की जो सरकार है, कई बार से सरकार बनी है, वहाँ के जो हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी हैं बहुत ही अनुभवी प्रधानमंत्री हैं। लोगों का जनमत उनको एक बार नहीं कई बार प्राप्त हो चुका है और ये लोग अपने इस आंतरिक मसले को लोग बैठ के बहुत जल्दी हल हो जाएगा, उसमें हमें पूरा विश्वास है इस बात का।
आपकी सरकार जो आपके भारतीय बच्चे वहाँ उनके लिए बता रहे हैं कि यहाँ बातचीत चल रही है, उनको यहाँ लाने का प्रयास किया जा रहा है।
उसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है कि अगर हमारे भारतीय नागरिक या बच्चे हैं उनको सुरक्षित यहाँ लाया जाएगा, उसमें कोई ऐसी बात ही नहीं है।
क्या मानते हैं जो कोटा सिस्टम है उसको खत्म हो जाना चाहिए जिसका विरोध किया जा रहा है?
देखिए, हर जगह की अपने अपने पॉलिटिकल प्रायोरिटीज होती हैं। वहाँ का जो है, जो कुछ भी है, वो उनकी इंटरनल मामला है, उनका इंटरनल विषय है। वो लोग बैठ के बांग्लादेश की सरकार, बांग्लादेश की जनता, वो लोग बैठ के आपस में तय करेंगे।
Meanwhile, the Kolkata-Dhaka Mayत्री Express has been cancelled in view of the ongoing crisis in the neighbouring country. The Bandhan Express, which runs on Sunday, has also been stopped. An Eastern Railway CPRO Kaushik Mitra said the authorities are in talks with the Bangladesh government and hope that the train services will resume soon.
आते हैं संडे का सर्विसेज के जो बात है, खुलना के लिए जो बंधन एक्सप्रेस चलता है संडे का, वो भी बंद हो गया, वो भी कैंसिल कर दिया बांग्लादेश का गवर्नमेंट के साथ बातचीत होते हुए। हम लोग ईस्टर्न रेलवे व इंडियन रेलवे के पार्ट से हम लोग ये ट्रेन को कैंसिल कर चुके हैं। संडे को खुलना के लिए बंधन एक्सप्रेस नहीं चलेगी और आज भी जो ट्रेन था वो मैत्री एक्सप्रेस, दैट ट्रेन हैज आल्सो बीन कैंसिल्ड। अभी तक तो कोई सिग्नल आया नहीं, अभी तक तो कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन आया नहीं कि कब खुलेगी, कब ट्रेन सर्विसेज नॉर्मल होगा। इंडिया बांग्लादेश का दोनों कंट्री का आपस में जो अच्छा रिलेशनशिप के तौर पर जो ट्रेन चलती है वो ट्रेन का कभी कोई खबर अभी तक हमारे पास नहीं है। उम्मीद करते हैं जल्दी ये ट्रेन सर्विसेज चालू हो जाए